I am here to talk to you today about vulnerability and really about the power of vulnerability. But we'll be talking about the full moon and the Vedic astrology update a little bit more towards the end of our session today. So I just want to take a moment, let people hop on and just welcome you here today. I hope you're doing really well. The energy has really been up and down. We've had some breakdown and some breakthrough energy. I don't know how that's been for you, but I've been on both ends of the spectrum, just really amazing breakthroughs. And, last week a total meltdown. So, it's been, the energy's been a mixed bag. And the full moon is here to really help us to open up our vulnerability in a big way. And today I really want to talk to you about the strength in that for you, the power in your vulnerability. So let me just introduce myself again as people are hopping on here. So I'm Prema Gurreri, and really I am here to inspire you to live from the inside out. That's my mission, is to inspire you to live from the inside out. I'm a Vedic astrologer, a business consultant, a healer, a spiritual guide, and the creator of Your Sacred Wealth Code. And it's really my mission to help entrepreneurs, visionaries, and change agents to lead with your highest value divine gifts. Those are the things that you are so brilliant at that nobody else can be or do like you do. So you can fully align with your purpose, your passion, and create wealth for yourself in a way that you are simply doing what you love to do, and you know that you're doing what you're meant to do. So that's my mission. That's what I'm here for. And today we're going to talk about the power of vulnerability and really how to use that vulnerability. The emotions that come up, really demystifying what vulnerability is, because it's not your weakness, it's actually your strength. And how to trust yourself to really walk your own soul path, how to really dig in and trust yourself when you don't necessarily know what the next steps actually are, or you're getting that download of what they are, but nobody else might be walking that path. You have to walk it alone. And I want to encourage you to stay till the end, and I will then do a Vedic astrology update and talk a little bit more about the full moon at that point too. So again, I want to welcome you, and anybody tuning into the replay, I want to welcome you too as well as you're tuning into the replay. If you have questions for me as we're going along here, if you have questions for me, type them in. I am totally here to answer your questions. If you have questions afterwards, if you're watching on the replay, I will absolutely come back and answer your questions as well. So I'm here to have conversation with you and to help you along your path right where you are, right here and now, and open up to more of that vulnerability. So it's super great to be here with you. So let's just take a breath and land. So being present allows us to open up to what's really for us personally, really for us in any given moment, so that we don't miss the gift of the moment. There's so much going on around us. So take a moment, put your hand on your heart, take a deep, full breath, and just come home to center. Just come home to center. Take a deep, full breath and allow yourself to really get present and be here right now. Great. And also notice what your intention is for being here. There's always an intention, and we want to bring it present. We want to bring it into the forefront. So what's your intention for being here right now? And just let that come up for you. And if you want to create even a stronger intention, you're welcome to do that as well. So what's your intention for being here? It's super helpful for you to have. Okay. All right, so let's dig into this subject of the power of vulnerability. So one of the definitions of vulnerability, and Brene Brown talks about this really quite well, and that is that vulnerability is the willingness to show up and be seen when you have no control over the outcome. When you have no control over the outcome. So I want you to think about for you when that's happened recently. When have you been willing to show up and actually open up and be seen when you did not know what's going to happen. You did not know what's next. And maybe you had a lot of emotion. Maybe you felt that you were not supported in the moment. Maybe you felt like nobody else got you in that moment. Maybe you were in fear, but you were willing to show up, even though you didn't know what was going to happen next. When was the last time that happened for you? I know that's happened for me many times. And I want to say that it happens almost daily, almost weekly. I just changed course in something that I was going to do in my business, that I was going to launch, a program that I have to launch, that I'm going to still launch, but I really just changed the timing on it. And I'm going to be bringing you something else, because even though that was the plan and it made sense on paper, when I really tuned in, everything was just steering me in a different direction. It was just totally steering me in a different direction. So that's not off course. There's no one who can truly, truly see your course except for you, but you may need help in seeing that. Absolutely. But, in that moment, I had to really check in and be able to trust myself that, I'm actually creating this journey. You are creating your life. You are creating your journey, and I can create it any way that I want to. I'm also tuning into the energy. I'm also tuning into the planets. That's what my clients depend on me for, is to help them find that right path for them as well. So I had to trust myself to completely change course. And I want to talk to you how to trust yourself in these moments of vulnerability. So for me, one of the things that I had to do was really get my left brain out of the way by looking at the pros and the cons and kind of weighing out a few things. I also tapped into the energy of it, because that's the modality, that's the space that I thrive in, and where a lot of my highest value gifts are. And the energy was all leading in that direction. And then I had to call a trusted mentor, because peer, friend, mentor, dear one, to bounce that off of, which I know that she'll always hold space for me to stand in my own truth and my own vulnerability. So it's good to have those trusted people on your team. So I want you to think about that too. Who's on your team that you can really trust in those moments where something new is coming through for you, where you feel really vulnerable or something's breaking down? And it's time, and you really want to step through and break through. And who's there for you? And take a moment, as you recognize who is there for you, to, really be grateful for that. And maybe even after our time together, send a note to that person, because that is, that is a very sacred place. And then if you don't have that person, then it's really important to get that person on your team. I know there's been times when I didn't feel like I had that person, and that sometimes held me back from actually being in that vulnerable place. See, vulnerability is a place that you have to stand alone. So therefore, and especially when you're putting your gifts out in the world. So that is also a place that, with your vulnerability, that you can really, you need support to be able to stand alone in your vulnerability. You need support in order for you to stand alone in your vulnerability. And, in order to have that support to stand alone in your vulnerability, it's having people who know you, love you, and trust you is wonderful, but also being able to trust in your own divinity and spending time really getting to know yourself. And what I believe is really knowing what your gifts are, because when you really are able to stand in your gifts, which is a very vulnerable place about doing your work in the world, but you know your gifts and you know that they have value for the world and you know what you're here for, then it gives you that extra courage that you need to be able to be open to the new path that might be opening up for you at this time. So I want to actually dive into my book, Your Sacred Wealth Code, Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity. And I want to do a little reading here of a page or so about vulnerability that I wrote, because I think it's really going to serve you today. And we can talk about this. You can also, again, type in your questions. I'm completely here for you and to help you to find your strength in your power, in your vulnerability. Because remember, vulnerability is about being open, and it does take strength to be open. So I call this part of your Sacred Wealth Code. It's fear, vulnerability, and your Sacred Wealth Code. Your Sacred Wealth Code is your highest value gifts, the things that you can do and you can be that no one else can do or be like you are, the things that you are divinely encoded to give the world. It's like your Sacred Wealth Code, your gifts are a key to unlock something in the world that you've come here to unlock, and nobody else can unlock the way you can. No one else can color or give that gift the way you can. It gives you that sense of belonging. It gives you that sense of purpose, but it also brings you wealth, and it also takes care of, solves a problem, takes care of, nurtures something in the world that you have come to grow and nurture. So we'll walk through this together, and feel free to ask questions. So a lot of people want to stand up and stand out in the world, and they feel like their souls are calling them to do something big. So notice if that's you, but they feel like they're wearing an invisibility cloak, and it's hard to take it off. So have you ever felt that way, where you can't quite take off that invisibility cloak? I know I have. Maybe you've climbed the mountains and practiced, your gifts, but haven't gotten any recognition from the outside world. Maybe they've been seen using some of their gifts for years, but in a quiet way, because they never received confirmation or encouragement around their efforts. And maybe they were simply put down too many times in the past. Has that happened to you, where you've been put down for your gifts or not recognized? Whatever the reason, shedding that invisibility cloak and shining their light feels painful and threatening. And so even after they identify and start using their high value gifts, they slip into the shadow sides of their Sacred Wealth Code to defend against the feeling of invisibility, instead of treating it like another mountain to scale. When you've been wounded, when you've really been vulnerable and stepped forward with your gifts, and you haven't been seen, or you've been put down or hurt in some way, it is going to make you want to hide, or, like I say, put that invisibility cloak on. And there can be a great deal of vulnerability involved with sharing your gifts with the world, your superpowers. And when you use your greatest gifts, you're putting your real self, your authentic divine self, on full display. You're standing up at the top of that mountain, waving your arms, shouting, here I am. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to do that. Of course, but until you do this, you'll always be living in some kind of a shadow, close enough to your Sacred Wealth Code to see it, but too far away to step into it. So when you live from your Sacred Wealth Code, your highest value gifts, you will no longer be able to follow the leader, because there is no one out there who is exactly like you. There's no one out there that's exactly like you. And that's why when you're standing in your gifts, you can't follow the leader. Thanks for the love. If this is making sense to you, absolutely. Throw me some hearts, invite your friends, share this around. But I want you so much to be able to take that invisibility cloak off. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about here, then be sure to go ahead and type those in, because I am going to do Q&A here as well. Okay. So I'm going to continue on. I've got a couple more paragraphs I want to share with you so that we can deepen this discussion about your vulnerability, the power in your vulnerability, and taking your invisibility cloak off. So there's no one else out there who can give you permission or confirmation, because no one is standing where you are standing. No one has ever walked your path. No one has ever walked your path. Only you have. Only you are about to. Let's put it that way. And in fact, if you are walking a path that you can completely see what's next for you, it's not your path. I want you to hear me on this. And it actually makes me emotional, because I have been there where I was trying to walk somebody else's path. And I realized, wow, this is such foreign territory to me, and I can't get all of me into this path. Have you been there when you're trying to walk someone else's path, but you know in your bones at some level it's not yours, but you've been told, or in some way your mind is telling you, yeah, you have to do this in order to, create the wealth you want, get your message out, feed your kids, whatever it might be. Your path is yours and yours alone. You can create a new product, a new line of thought, a new state of being, and you can honestly claim that it's the best of its kind because there is nothing out there like it. It's original. Anything you create is completely and totally original, and it is the best that's out there as far as that's concerned, because it's the only thing out there unless you have, copied someone else. But when you're using your gifts, that's not what you're doing. You're absolutely standing in what's emerging in the moment. And this can feel incredibly vulnerable. This can feel incredibly vulnerable to, say, hey, this is amazing stuff. When the Sacred Wealth Code started to really come through for me in this way, even though it's based off a scientific principle in Vedic astrology, but my interpretation of it happens to be original. And it took me a while of dancing with myself and trusting myself to be able to say, no, this is something really valuable, and this works. Not only does it work for me, but it's working for, many people that I've shared this with, and it's still growing and emerging all the time. But I understand it can be a scary place. So have you created something original or done something original that, you are, maybe you have no one else has said, oh, that's fabulous. But somewhere inside of you, if you're really honest, it is, but maybe you're feeling vulnerable about that. So you've got that invisibility cloak on. So if this is making sense for you, just join in the party here. And I'd love to hear, what have you created that feels original, that is original to you? Because anything you truly create is original, but feels vulnerable to you at the same time. So type that in, because I'd love to hear about that. Just a little bit more here. Yes, it would be beautiful if the whole world and everyone in it supported us when we step into the place of originality. But since not everyone in the world is living from their sacred wealth code, remember, that's your highest value gifts, the things that you are so magnificent at that nobody else is like you are. We can't expect them to understand where we are. We simply have to do what we're called to do and trust we know better than anyone else what our souls have planned for us. We simply have to do what we're called to do because it's, hi, Mary. Hi, Christy. God, great to see you guys here. Hi, Anne. So because it's too painful to not do that. It's too painful to not do what your soul is absolutely calling you to do. Have you been there? And what usually happens is something usually pretty life crushing in some way when you're denying that soul calling. Your relationships fall apart, or a relationship falls apart. You lose the deal. Something goes wrong with the job. Something big you wanted to move out in the world won't move. Some unexpected thing comes, whether it's a tax bill or a sick relative, or something with one of your kids. Something comes up that will pull you deeper into your vulnerability, because your vulnerability lives very, very close to your soul calling. It lives right there. It's that place of the unknown, and it's that place where you are incredibly open, incredibly open. So no one knows your path like you do. Like I said, you can have helpers, you can have supporters, you can have door openers, and really in all my work, I really consider myself really to be a door opener for you, to you. But you know that path, and you've got to learn to be able to really hone in and trust yourself. And I believe really knowing your sacred wealth code, knowing your gifts, gives you the ability to do that, because it also gives you the ability to step out of your shadow. So just a little bit more here from this chapter, and then I want to answer your questions and tell you about this full moon as well. So there's a great deal of strength in this kind of vulnerability. This is where courage lives, by the way. This is where courage lives. You have to be incredibly vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage to be incredibly vulnerable. And being vulnerable means that you're being open to trust yourself, your true self. And yes, the world gets to see you, but you also get to see you. And perhaps for the first time in your life, you will never know the greatness of your gifts fully until you face the challenge of fully being seen. Again, this one makes me, my vulnerability comes up with this too, because I have the great connector in my Sacred Wealth Code, one of the Sacred Wealth Code archetypes. I can meet anybody where they're at a deep intuitive soul level, and also right here, conversing here in the physical world. But I haven't always felt seen and not fully seen for my gifts. And it wasn't until I really started to embrace my gifts and really see and honor and value myself for my gifts that I also started to see that reflected in the world. So I'd love to know for you, are you feeling seen for your gifts? Chat that in. And also be honest with yourself. Have you fully seen yourself? Are you embracing and stepping out with your gifts? And just embracing and recognizing them is the first step in that. Because it's soul crushing when you're not. So when you're willing to be seen, your gifts will also be seen, and you'll start to see them reflected back to you by others. You'll understand how you are making a difference in others' lives in the world. If vulnerability and visibility are challenges for you, start small. Practice being open in a safe space with people you trust and who accept you for who you are. And once you know what that experience of true openness feels like, you'll want to bring it forward into the rest of your life. So I want to talk a little bit more about the vulnerability and the practice and how to actually open up to not being seen, to open up to being seen. Okay, I want to check in with some of your comments here, because this is a conversation. That's one of the beautiful things about this format. It's totally a conversation. Christy, great, Christy's going to catch the replay. And yeah, all of you, the replay will be here. And great. And Christy's also mentioning that she hasn't been seen for all of her gifts. So in order to start to be seen for your gifts, first of all, the first step is to know what they are, And if you don't know what your gifts are, you might want to get a Sacred Wealth Code reading that will really help define your gifts. And your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes will show you what your gifts are and also where you're hiding in the shadow. You actually get both of those. And I'll drop that link in the chat here in just a moment. And you'll also want to start to practice your gifts in a safe space, just like had written about and if you don't have, your Sacred Wealth Code, Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity, I'll drop the link in for that as well. It's a total workbook playbook, and that's what I was just reading from to help you connect with your Sacred Wealth Code and your highest value gifts. So you want to practice in a trusted atmosphere. It's like standing out naked in the world, in the middle of Times Square, or, standing naked maybe with somebody who knows you really well. You want to give yourself that practice of a safe space, and then be able to step out, and you'll be able to step out in bigger forums. Like in my Sacred Wealth Code, in all my programs, one of the things I encourage people to do is to come forward and use their gifts and use them within that trusted circle and that trusted format, whether they're going to just state that or whether they're going to share things or by video. But you want to have a trusted place in order for you to start to share and explore your gifts. And also when your shadow creeps over you, which is also what makes us put the invisibility cloak on, and that we've got the support to take that off. So share in a trusted place that will really help. You need to know that what you have to offer, that it's worth being vulnerable, because what you have to offer is incredibly, incredibly valuable to the world, because there's nobody else who can do what you've come here to do, to be who you've come here to be. And if that stays locked inside of you for the rest of your life, you will not have the wealthy life that you want. And I don't just mean money. I mean that soul satisfaction, that sense of purpose, that that sense of fulfillment on every level, because sacred wealth is not just about money. It means that you are feeling fulfilled in your relationships. You're feeling fulfilled in your bank account. You're feeling fulfilled in the work that you're doing in the world, in the connectivity you're having with the others, with your soul is feeling very, very fulfilled as well. So that you're fulfilled on every level of your being, because that's absolutely possible. And that's what your soul wants for you in your own unique way. So you've got to really trust that. So if this is resonating for you, feel free to throw me some hearts and share. Let me know what's coming up for you around your vulnerability and your willingness or ability to share your highest value gifts, because that's directly connected to your wealth. And also feel free to share this. I want to talk now about the full moon. And, the full moon in Vedic astrology is in Pisces today. And where it happens to be in Pisces is in a lunar mansion that we call Revite. In Vedic astrology, there is 27 lunar mansions that the moon travels through as it travels through all the signs. And the Revite is the last of the lunar mansions. So it is the end of the moon's travel before it starts a new cycle through Aries again. So it's in Pisces. And it's a really fecund place. It's a water placement. It is water in the form of steam. So it has that ability it's kind of where the veil is very thin between the worlds. It has this energy of like the womb of the divine mother in mythology. It is a very creative, abundant place. And it's also, and that's why I wanted to talk about vulnerability today. It's also can be very emotional and very vulnerable. But there's a lot of power here. So I want you to open to that and be open to what you're feeling. So let me give you a little practice around this today. So what is it that you are bringing into full fruition on this full moon? Or what would you like to be bringing into full fruition? Because with this full moon, we've got the full fruition of something, and we've got the new beginning that's just about to happen. It's like, you're stepping through the veil, the place between the worlds. So what are you bringing into fruition or even into closure? And then what are you ready to start new? So as we always do in my practice, close your eyes, take a deep breath, put your hand on your heart, breathe deep into your heart. This is to bring our mind and our heart together. It's not enough to know the information. We've got to be it. So I want to give you the practice to go ahead and use this energy today. Deep, full breath. And then asking your heart, what is it that I am bringing into full fruition? Like a piece of ripe fruit, it's ripe now. It's time to pick it. And this could be a way of being. It could be actually a project. This could be something that you're ready to even be done with. Because actually the next question is, what's something that you're coming to the end of, that it's time to end? Maybe this is a pattern that it's time to end. Maybe you've lived it out and you're ready to okay, close the circle on this. So what do you bring into full fruition, or what are you ending? And you can feel free to share that in the comments. And with this, you want to surrender this. Simply surrender this to the divine. Your name for spirit. Surrender this. This is an incredible feminine principle, the principle of surrender. This is letting go, and this is surrendering. So surrender it. Open your palms, give it to the divine for closure or for the full fruition. And take a moment to just celebrate yourself and to celebrate this. Whatever this is, just completely celebrate it. Whether it was a negative pattern that's coming to an end, or wow, you just finished this amazing project, or this beautiful piece of art, whatever this might have been. And then tune in, and what are you ready to start new? What are you ready to start new? Ask your heart. What is it time for you to start new? We're at that beginning, that end and the beginning. What's it time for you to start new? And this could be a way of being. It doesn't have to be a practical thing to do. What are you ready to start new? Are you ready to start living your gifts more fully? Are you ready to be more seen? Are you ready to open up even more to the wealth, the wealthy life that you're here to live and share? So whatever that is, you're going to tune in for one inspired action. What's one inspired action I could take? It's one inspired action that I could take today. Today is important. Today. To begin this. What's one inspired action I could take today to begin this? And whatever that is, whatever that inspired action is, go ahead and type that in. Share that in the comments. It's good to have some witnesses. You have trusted people here. You have trusted souls with you on the journey here. So let's add one next step here to our full moon energy. And that is, this is a very feeling place, okay, where the moon is right now. And, you know, emotions are energy in motion, but let's go underneath that is like the feeling level. So you can choose how you want to feel. You can amplify your feelings. You can change how you feel, but your feelings are one of your biggest manifestation powers. There are, you know, what you say, what you believe, what you see, that's one thing. But when it comes to the energy, the vibration behind it is what you're feeling is what you're really manifesting. So if you're feeling fear, you're manifesting what that fear is about. I was just teaching my group about my Sacred Wealth Circle around worry means praying for what you don't want. If you are really just feeling that energy of it, then you're actually adding to that manifestation power and you are creating it. So that's what I actually want you to do now. Whatever you're starting new with this full moon, as we start to step into the next cycle, how would that feel if that was already happening for you? How would that feel if that was already happening for you? Would you just feel elated? Would you feel like really calm? Would you feel strong and in your power? Would you feel, you know, just an immense sense of joy? Would that bring you just to that place of such peace in your heart? Would you be so excited? What's the feeling quality of what it is that you want to create as we go into this next cycle? That whatever came up for you that you're going to take that inspired action around, get into that feeling and just take a couple of deep breaths and really feel that. And like as if you have a dial, I like to keep mine on my chest, and turn that dial all the way up to a 10, like really feel that. Really feel that. That manifestation power of feelings, especially with the amplified ability we have to feel on this full moon, I want you to use that and really lock that in viscerally. One way to lock in a feeling is to anchor it physically. So once you're really feeling it, like at that 10 level, you can do something simple like press your thumb and forefingers together, touch your heart, touch yourself anywhere that will help you to lock in that feeling so you can come back to it. So love to hear what you're up for manifesting next. Love to support you on that. If you missed the beginning of this, you can go back and listen to the beginning of this. Unless you're watching the replay, you caught it from the beginning, talking about vulnerability today and how to be seen, how to step out and actually be seen for your gifts. And that is a vulnerable place. And if you are stuck in your shadow, that is where it's going to be very hard to take the vulnerability cloak off, and we need to get in and clear that shadow piece. And one step is to step into your gifts. So you might want to get your Sacred Wealth Code, because that's going to help you to understand what your gifts are. I'm going to drop the link here in with this video here in just a moment, or you can just visit Solutionary, SOULUTIONARY.com. You can drop me a private message. You can. I'm happy to help you. And knowing your gifts are totally going to help you. If this has resonated for you today, share this so more people can get in tune with the energy of the full moon today and with the power that's in your vulnerability. Remember, vulnerability is being open. We read from yoursacredwealthcode.com, Your Sacred Wealth Code, Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity, my new book, my new best-selling book. And if that spoke to you and you want to grab a copy of that, I'll drop the link in as well. That's available on Amazon and on my website. You get a lot of free gifts with that as well. So I'm here every Wednesday at noon. So much love to you. And I just want to celebrate all of you for showing up in your gifts in just at least one small way each and every day, and having a trusted place for you to start to explore your vulnerability, and really to pat yourself on the back, give yourself a big hug, and hug each other for being in your vulnerability, because it is a place of being open. And what if we were living in a world where all of us were so much more willing to come out of hiding and to be open? We would be so much more connected to what we're truly here for, so much happier, and have so much more wealth. So much love to you. Many blessings, and namaste.